Alright guys, so something we don't cover very often in class is when you're first starting, what should our stance be for kickboxing, right? So our most fundamental stance, we kind of want to have our legs a little bit wider than our hips, and we want to have a little bit of depth in our stance. So if we were to draw that on the mat, it's not quite a square. Most of us are a little bit wider this way than we are deep, so it's going to be just slightly wider, a little bit more rectangular, and we want to have a good flex in the knees and in the ankles. The ankles is not often talked about, but it's really important that you kind of absorb that weight down into the ground. By basing yourself really nicely, it's going to give you good balance, good stability, and a good strong base to throw our punches from. Alright, so we want to have that weight down nice and low here. The back heel should be just a fraction off the floor for the back leg. Alright, weight ideally kind of 50-50 to start with, and as we start stepping, we're going to transfer the weight between our legs. You should feel a little bit of tension inwards, kind of like the base of your pyramid is pushing together towards the top, right? And that's what's going to keep us nice and steady. Our most basic footwork is described as a step and slide, right? And the step and slide means that my lead foot, in whichever direction I'm going, so if I'm going forwards, it's the front leg, is going to lift off the ground and take a little step forward. So I'm getting a little bit wider or deeper in my stance rather than narrower. Once it's gone forward, the back leg is then going to slide along the mat to pull back up to the correct distance. All right? So again, our forward step and slide, we do a little step, and then we slide up. Step, slide up. And the goal is not to off-balance ourselves in that process. All right? If I was to move to the left side, the same principle would apply. I'd step and slide. Step and slide. Coming back to the right, step, slide. Step, slide. Moving backwards, step, slide. Step, slide. And forwards, step, slide, step, slide. All right. Make sure that you square your feet back up after each one of those movements. We want our feet kind of on those railway tracks facing forward, almost like we're going to be crouched down in a sprinting style stance. That's going to give us nice forward explosive movement, all right, with our footwork. Okay. So not leaning our back leg outward, not resting on the back leg. Keep it engaged, ready to move forward on the attack. We need to close the gap between us and our partner to deliver those punches. So I make sure I have a nice strong step and slide in place. All right? Cool. Once we've done our step and slide, we can start to look at the turns or the pivots. The first one, let's just work on our 90-degree angle, so a right angle turn. My lead foot is going to rotate around, and I'm going to complement that by dragging my back leg around the corner. So I've done exactly a right angle turn. And I want to be really precise with the angles that I use, because as I'm trying to work around my partner later, I need to know exactly where my punch is going to end up based on how much I turn. Okay. So rotate, rotate, rotate. Right. Then we can also rotate off in the opposite direction. I can do that by stepping first and then pivoting the opposite way. Or the alternate option is that I can move my front foot first and then pivot the back leg second. Right. Different time and place for each of those two movements, but give that a go. Give us your feedback. A couple of points that I just want to bring up about your stance, right? And kind of why we would set it this way as opposed to in boxing they'll quite often stand slide on, or in Thai boxing they might step back onto the back leg a little bit more. Alright, so the main things that we want to be focused on is trying to even up our power delivery through both hips, both shoulders, and both hands, so that we can get knockout power off both sets of punching, because that's going to double our offensive weapons. When we really slide on, we're going to be compromised in power a little bit off that lead punch, and all the power delivery is going to come only from the backhand. Alright, so in kickboxing MMA, we've got more tools to use. So it's at quite a disadvantage to halve the number of options that we have. Right? So rather than splitting hairs over a very finite set of techniques that are available to us, we have a lot of techniques available. Right? And if we limit ourselves to only using one or two, they have a lot of options to counter. So we really want to minimize that. Make sure we can deliver good power off both sides. We want to keep our legs nice and square so that we can easily defend any attacks coming from the outside on the stronger part of the leg. All right. The more side on that we turn, the more off balanced we can be by being kicked in the back of the leg or being swept over. All right. We don't want to stand dead still or with too much weight on the back leg, because for MMA our opponents are going to be able to take us down by compromising our base. Right. So if our legs are together, they've got a better shot of tapping them together and driving us to the mat. So legs nice and wide, right? Good low stance, good power delivery on both sides. Notice side on that I'm keeping my hips relatively flat. I'm not twisted all the way to one side, even though 1 foot forward is 1 foot forward and 1 foot backwards, right? So my shoulders are quite flat and my hips are quite flat until I start engaging in the punching, right? Does that kind of make sense to you guys? So as we're looking at that, the other key things, right, is like, where do I place my feet then from my center, right? 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Try and split them evenly forward and backwards. So I'm not going 1 foot massively forward and 1 foot really far back, for example. So I'm not here or here. I'm trying to be as relaxed as I possibly can, bend my knee and place my weight forward there. Right? Then guard up nice and high. And we've got a good stance right now. When we're doing our step and sliding, we want to stay as close to that stance as much as we can. That's going to enable us, as we're moving close to the mat, to change direction as needed very quickly. If we're taking big steps or we're off balance, it becomes a lot more readable for our opponents, and also it gives them a window of opportunity where we're not in a position to attack. So I want to make sure that I'm in a good stance, nice and low. I move as easily and quickly as possible between those positions, and then later I can glide around the mat while throwing with good power at the same time. So our shadow boxing part of that drill should be about keeping good stance and good footwork for the duration of that round, right? So not getting into a good stance and then stepping out of it as soon as we start to move. Okay? So really good basics for either for K1 or for MMA.